Chris Gunzz with... Oh, sorry, man. I'll start over. Chris Gunzz here with Vicious Vince Caruso, manager of and founder of Anatoliy Dudchenko. You kind of did find him, didn't you, Vince?
Well, actually, no. They found me.
Really?
They actually found me. Crazy as it may seem.
So today I was on the teleconference call. Main Events held a teleconference with Anatoliy Dudchenko. You were there. Jesse Reed was there. And Anatoly's opponent for June 21st was there too. Najib Muhammad, he was on the line. And I was listening to when you were talking, and it was hard to hear sometimes because of the translator that was talking and translating. But I heard you say that you saw Anatoly, and as soon as you saw him, you knew that he was something special. So how did you find him in the gym, and what did you see that made you see that he was something special?
Well, I'm gonna tell you the whole kit and caboodle here, so you get the whole story. Because up until now, it's never been discussed because we've just been so focused and busy. But for many years I was with Marco Barrera, that, and that split when that happened, I think it was like 2003 when I left, and it just, for me it devastated me. It did. It really devastated me. And I couldn't even watch a boxing match. So I took like 9 years away from this sport, and went into the private sector, as they say, the working world, the 9-to-5 world. And I actually went to go work for Freddie Roach's brother, Joe, in Las Vegas. So I was out there, just doing my thing away from boxing. I decided to move back to the East Coast last year. In April, I moved back to Jersey. Why? I have no idea, because I spent 22 years trying to get out of there. And I said, what the hell, I'll go back. This desert heat in Arizona was just frying my brain, and there's just too many white people out here. So I had to, get away. I don't mean that, but I had to get away and go back. I figured, okay, let me go back and soak up some of my relatives I haven't seen in 20-odd years and stuff. So here I am in Jersey, miserable. I mean, worse than I was in Arizona. I'm with this chick I couldn't even stand. I'm like, oh, no. So I said, I got to get my mind off of something. So I saw that Guillermo Rigondeaux was fighting in the city. And a friend of mine, an actor named Holt McElhenney, he actually got in touch with me. And, I haven't seen him in 12 years. And, we're talking. He's like, hey, you know what? You should check out our buddy Phil Paulina out in L.A., man. He asks about you all the time. This used to be a mutual friend of ours. So I was like, okay, great. I'll hit Phil up. So he gave me his number, and I hit him up, and he says, hey, listen, Vin, I know you got a lot of pull with promoters and stuff like that, and you did your own shows. I got this light heavyweight that I think you should take a look at. He's 15-2, I think he was at the time, or 16-2 at the time. His 2 losses came within his first 4 fights, and it was just because he didn't have proper guidance. He didn't even have a good manager. Mm-hmm. So he just took whatever fight they put in front of him. And to be honest with you, the 2 fights he lost, if you saw one of them, everybody says he won against Ronson Frank. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll check him out. So he sent some YouTube videos I was looking at, and all of a sudden I was like, wow, man, this guy, he looks like a little, out of touch, his balance or something, but Jesus, man, when this guy lands his right hand, it's just thunderous. I mean, it's just like, boom. And I think the last time I saw a guy hit like that, it was the late Julian Letterlau, old friend of mine that passed away. He used to be a good light heavyweight. And he hit like that way. He had that just right hand, that boom. When he hits you, you just knew. And I'm thinking, this guy's got unharnessed talent. I mean, I hate to say it, he was with my buddy Phil at the time, but he couldn't bring him to the next level. So I saw the video of him, and I got inspired. So I went to the Rigondeaux fight, just showed up. I mean, I haven't seen anybody in years. Ran into Brad Goodman, my old friend from Top Rank, a good matchmaker there. Mm-hmm. I said, Brady, can you hook me up with a ticket tonight? I took the subway in, I'm bored. He's like, yeah, here, Vince. He got me a ticket. Now, while I'm there, I get a call back from this guy, Phil, that had Anatoly out in L.A., and he said, hey, listen, Anatoly has a manager Doesn't really know much about boxing sport as overall, but he really is a close friend of Anatoly's. He's been helping him out, and he wants to see him get to a world title. You should talk to him. In fact, he's in New York City right now. So I gave this guy, he gave me his number. I text the guy mine. His name is Lawrence Rosenberg. He's the president of our company, Rosebox Sports. I met the young guy at the Garden right before the weigh-in of Rigondeaux. And he sat down with me. He told me, he said, look, man, Anatoly's like family to me. We're both Ukrainian. There's a bond there that we don't even need any formal agreements with me and him. It's always just been a family thing. I'm paying for these opponents. I'm paying to get them on cards. And I just looked at him and I said, Lawrence, listen, you don't know me from Adam, but I will tell you this. If you take me on as his agent, you'll never pay for a fight again. That I can guarantee you. I said, you got a good product here. It has to be pushed the right way. And then that's when he started letting me know, hey, look, I'm willing to go to whatever length it takes to get Anatoly to the top. You quarterback this thing, Vince. You tell me. You tell me what we should do. And I said, well, the first thing, we got to do is get him with the right people. And, he bounced around between two trainers. He had Phil Paulina, and then he had a guy named Ruben Chavez. And, both were good guys, and, both definitely brought something to the table, but it just didn't have the marquee for the next level. And then that's when I thought about Chris Bird. And I had him go down and work with Chris Bird, who I think is just a great, awesome person, let alone a fighter. I've known his whole family for many years, and he's just a very good person. Anatoly had a problem with the distance of going from LA to San Diego, and the communication gap was there. And, Chris has other agendas, too, for himself, which is good. I like to see a guy after he retires from the ring has something to do. But Anatoly is a very special case. He needs the right type of mentoring. He's a guy, his IQ, Chris, in boxing, and I swear to you, and I'm not BSing you, I've been around this game 20 years. I'm telling you, his IQ is off the chart. I hate going to a fight with him because I can't even sit and enjoy the damn fight because he's nudging me did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that? I'm like, dude, please stop. Bro, you're killing my groove. He is amazing. He's got like this matrix thing about him where he slows it down and he like knows what's going to happen before it happens. I said, do you see this when you're in the ring? He says, every time. I said, then what the fuck? You should never lose another round again. Never. And I said, I'll tell you what. We got the fight in Germany. I got him in position with the IBF to fight for their Intercontinental title. He was the mandatory to go fight undefeated kid Robert Wogay. A very, very tough kid who hits like a mule. He is strong as an ox and young. 12-0 with 11 knockouts. Yep. So I told Anatoly, look, I can't go with you to Germany. I can't. But I tell you what, go over there and that shit you told me about slowing that down, do it against him. And I guarantee you won't lose a round. And I don't even care you fighting him in his backyard. You won't lose a round. So sure enough, 4 o'clock in the morning or whenever, I get the phone call and I see the results. 118, 110, almost across the board. And you go into a German's backyard, and they put it this way. You know how much stock they put in this kid, Wogay? We fought him October 26th of 2013. Same night Hopkins fought a guy named Caro Murat in Atlantic City. Mm-hmm. Well, Caro Murat and Robert Wogay are stablemates, and they are under the direction of world-class, legendary trainer, Hall of Fame trainer, Uli Wegner in Germany. That night, Uli Wegner stayed back with Robert Wogay to fight Anatoly and didn't go to Atlantic City with Murat. They sent Malcolm Garrett from Indiana to help out in the corner, to be the extra guy. Why? Because Wegner said that Wogay would need the training better, need the attention better, because Dudchenko is a bigger threat than Hopkins. That's Uli Wegner's take on that, okay? I mean, you're talking, most people in America don't know the guy, but let me just compare him to, I would say, legendary-wise, Emmanuel Stewart. Yeah, exactly. That's what he would be in Germany. I mean, he's a legend, and he trains their amateurs and their pros. So, I mean, for this guy to say that right there, that was a moral victory right there. I mean, Anatoly is a machine, man. He is. He just trains like there's no tomorrow. He has the stamina of a 22-year-old. He's 36. Well, he's going to be 36. And it's just, Chris, I tell you, fate brought that together. That's how it happened. We got together in the garden, Lawrence Rosenberg and I. Next thing you know, a year and a month later, here we are. In 1 year. In 1 year, from paying for fights in Montebello, California, in a ballroom on a golf course, to fighting on NBC for the mandatory in the IBF, that says something special.
Yeah. Sky's the limit. Soon as he hooked up with Vince Caruso, sky was the limit. And when did you find out that this guy got such a late start in boxing? I mean, you had to find out pretty much right away, which is incredible also. I mean, the guy's 36, you said, but a lot of people would be surprised if they saw him, and to know he's also from the Ukraine and stuff. Usually those guys start boxing from the time they're little, or start in some kind of fighting sport at about 7 or 8 years old. As soon as they pretty much start walking, they start doing some kind of physical sports. But this guy started in volleyball. When did you find out that this guy started in volleyball?
Incredible.
It's really amazing. When did you find that out? What did you think about that?
Well, you know what? I said, well, now it makes sense. I mean, the kid moves from the Ukraine to Hollywood, and he's right by the beach. Okay, I get it now. But, I mean, look, you know, one of the most amazing fighters I ever met my whole time in boxing, young guy by the name of Philip Holliday.
Yes.
He's from Durban, South Africa.
Yep.
And he was a good friend of a guy I used to work with, Francois Botha.
He was a cycler.
And I met, you remember Philip Holliday?
Yeah.
He set the record, I believe, against Ivan Robinson for punches thrown in a fight.
Yep.
And Philip was a great, I mean, he trained and had his stamina and this work ethic I've never, ever seen on anyone. And you know what he did? He was, what is it? It's not a decathlon, but it's the one where you do the kayaking, and then you do the 25-mile run, and then you do the 25 miles on the bicycle. I mean, unbelievable. Like the triathlon, I think it is, like the Ironman.
Yeah,
well,
Ironman.
He did that. I mean, and I was thinking, wow, he doesn't lift the weight in his life. He doesn't do any type of strenuous boxing, just a little bit of sparring, maybe 8 rounds, 9 rounds, 10 rounds. But he never really did any type of strength training or anything like that, because he would run that circuit. Well, you know, volleyball, when you think about it, you're in the sand.
Yes.
And I mean, Greg Haugen told me a long time ago, he said, you know what? You know why I was always able to stay on the balls of my feet? Running in that sand. Running in that sand. So, I mean, I think that the volleyball player aspect actually gives them good balance, and I think it actually gives them a lot of mobility as far as, you know, side-to-side movement, which, you know, is a part of his game plan, a very big part of his game plan.
Yeah, and you can't substitute that kind of power that it would give your legs. I mean, imagine what a volleyball's power would have. Not too many people who play volleyball become a fighter, but I'll bet you if they tried, they'd be surprised with how successful they would be.
Look at that guy, Karch Karai. I remember watching Karch Karai in the Olympics, and I believe it was '84 in the Los Angeles Summer Games, and I think he just retired not too long ago. So these volleyball guys. Yeah, let me tell you, look at the fluid motion that they use. I mean, it's almost like a squat and a thrusting up. I mean, come on, that's definitely something a boxer bending your knees and coming up with that power, and the power that this kid has. I don't know where he gets it. I really don't. But I'm telling you right now, you can ask anybody that has come across this kid, whether it be Chris Bird, whether it be anybody in the gyms, in the LA gyms, anyone that's ever even held the mitts for him, they tell me the same thing. Jesus, he hits like a heavyweight.
Yeah. And I mentioned the volleyball thing because it is amazing how you described his boxing IQ, and he didn't get started till 25, 26 years old. It's really incredible. So that's the only reason why I mentioned it. He didn't come from any other fighting game. Like, it does make sense when, you know, you're talking to people who came into boxing through playing football or playing rugby, but volleyball, you just never hear of it. It's really incredible. But
it's just another page in his amazing story, Chris.
Yeah, and you were out of the game yourself for 9 years. You mentioned how you went into a depression after life problems and stuff. But
yeah,
how did you get back in the game? Did you start missing the game, or was it just happenstance that someone brought it up to you? How did you get back into it? And 9 years out of boxing's a lifetime, really.
It's eternity. It's an eternity.
How was it that you got back in it and decided that it was the right move for you at the time? And how was it getting back in after 9 years out?
Hard, really hard. I needed to do a few things before I really committed myself. And, you know, one thing is I'm a firm believer in, to move forward, you got to go back. You have to. And, you know, the first thing I did was actually go back and make amends with Marco Barrera. That was the first thing I had to do. And I'm glad I did it. And his family, which was almost like my family for a period of time. And also the blessings of Ricardo Maldonado and his family, who also, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those two. And, you know, I let a lot of people down, Chris. I was messed up. I was, not going to lie, I was addicted. You know, I was addicted to painkillers, and it really, you know, messed up my life. It did. It messed me up in a way where I was probably someone that I know. I should look in the mirror and I hated. I just hated who I was. Hated everything about me. And I couldn't watch a boxing match because, I mean, when you're side by side with the second best fighter in the world for all those years, and wherever you go, you're treated like royalty, and then all of a sudden that gets yanked out from under you, you better have fucking balls the size of the Epcot Center. Because, I mean, it broke me. I mean, it did. It broke me to the fact that, you know, I used to self-medicate myself for injuries I legitimately did get in professional wrestling, you know, very bad back injuries. And I was self-medicating because I had a connection to get Vicodins, you know, across the border. I come back with like 1,000 of them. And, I mean, it was so bad that it was affecting my relationship with the people that I was involved in boxing with. And I lost that relationship. And I mean, I couldn't even watch, Chris, I couldn't watch a fight. I couldn't even watch a Rocky movie. It was that bad. I mean, people thought I was dead. You know, and I got to tell you something. And I know he's going to listen to this interview, so I'm going to be very candid now. If it wasn't for I got two very special people that after I did leave boxing, and I was not in a good place in myself, gave me a chance when nobody else did, and really, really kept me alive and kept me afloat. And that's Freddie Roach's mother, Barbara, and his late brother, Joe. You know, if it wasn't for them, I tell you, Joe gave me a job working in Vegas. He had a telemarketing company that carried a lot of telecommunications firms. And it was a very professional setting, very big, very, you know, for a small business, it was very successful. And, you know, I went to work for Joe. And I stayed with him for about a year and a half, the time I was living in Las Vegas, right after I split with Marco. And at the time, I had met the woman I married, and that's my son's mother. So we had a baby. She also worked for Joe, too. We had a baby, and we had, like, no money. I mean, we were struggling. We were living in Vegas, like in the hood, like in North Las Vegas, like the part you don't go to, Las Vegas. And it was just like, I mean, here I was. I mean, I got sober. That was the good part, you know. I mean, the minute she was pregnant, I was like, oh, wow. I mean, that was slap in the face number one. So I immediately went to a rehab, a 90-day program, and I got clean. And I've been clean since. So I'm really, really, you know, that changed my life in such a good way. It's not even funny, but the boxing was still missing. And even though things were going good for me, you know, as far as having a baby and my life changing, I'm still broke. And Barbara Roach, Freddie's mom and Joey's mom, she, out of the kindness of her heart, knew we didn't have a car. We didn't even have a car. We were taking the bus in the Vegas heat, like 115 degrees. Now, here I am 1 minute traveling in limos with Barrera everywhere we go, and the next minute I'm taking the freaking bus. And right down the road is the building where we used to make all that happen at the MGM. I'm just like, wow, man, this is like reality choking me right now. So Barbara Roach, out of the kindness of her heart, had a brand new BMW 725, a white one Freddie had bought her. After, in fact, get this, after Manny knocked out Marco in Texas. So Freddie bought her this white BMW, and she gave that car to me and my then wife. I mean, she gave it. Didn't even say, here, put your name on the insurance. She didn't even know if I had a license. It was like, here you go. She said, Vinny, please, this is for you, your wife, and your baby. And let me tell you something. That right there, I ever catch anybody saying a bad word about Freddie Roach, I'll crack them in the mouth. Seriously. Because that guy was raised by his mom. Yeah. And let me tell you something. She did a damn good job. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That is a very loving family. A very loving family. And I owe them a lot. Now, Joey died. I can't repay that debt to him. But I tell you what, I owe that family a lot. And they kept me going. And then finally, Chris, I'm doing better. I move out to Arizona. I'm doing really good. But I'm still not in boxing. And the girl I was with at the time said to me, one night she just said, why are you wasting your time doing these stupid jobs when you know you want to be in boxing? And I looked at her and I'm like, what the I didn't tell you that. And she's like, trust me, I knew it the minute I met you. She says, like, it's your life. She says, it's your life. And if you don't do something about it and get back in that, you're going to be 60 years old, looking over your shoulder, talking about one or two big fights that you were involved in when it could have been 102. And I was just like, you know what? You're lousy in bed, but Jesus, you are good. You read me like a book. So I'm like, dude, boom, I'm not kidding you, bro. I go, like I said, I just get up and go to Jersey. Within a month, my phone rings, and it's Holt McCallany telling me about this kid, Anatoliy Dudchenko, in Los Angeles. And then I told you the rest from there. And just like that, man, I'm like freaking reborn. I'm like, this is me. I mean, I literally, bro, there isn't a drug in this world that could put me higher than I am right now. And it's even going to be bigger. I mean, it's just going to be so big. It's like I've seen this movie before, Chris. I've seen it. You know, I've watched this movie. And I've already know how it's going to end, as they say. Yeah. And that's why I have no fear. That's why you hear me running my big mouth, making guarantees. I don't like guarantees. I don't want to look like a dumbass. I'm trying to make myself look smart and educated, even if I'm not. I'm trying to portray that. But I mean, it's like, you know what I mean, bro? I'm trying to be like in the moment right now. But bro, I'm back and I'm better and I'm ready. And it's like a friend of mine told me at the farm show last week. You know, when Alvarado fought Marquez, and we went back to the farm where it all started. A friend of mine, Carlos Aviles, who was the man responsible for bringing Marco Barrera to this country when he was 16. He told me, he said, Vicente, I'm very proud of you. I see where you come. Your heart was always good. You were always true to everybody that you were good with. You deserve this. And I lost it, man. I mean, to hear it coming from this guy that I came up with, this guy was like, you know, a family member to us at the forum. I know I'm ready. I know I'm ready. And I know the Maldonado family has told me I'm ready. And Marco Barrera said I'm ready to go, bro. I'm ready. It's just already been done. It's just been written. And now I just got to play it out and love it.
Yeah, and you did. You brought up Barrera. You brought up the forum, and that's another thing. I wanted to ask you a little something about the forum and it getting back into boxing. And you actually went to the Marquez Alvarado fight, and you were with Marco there. and you and Marco have a great relationship again, and that's great. And you watch Marquez Alvarado at the Forum sitting between Barrera and Julio Cesar Chavez. Is that incredible or what?
Yeah, I'm ready. Go ahead, put me in the casket and send me on, man. I'm ready to go. I was like, yeah, I could die tonight. I'm good. Just bury me in the Forum.
two icons, man. I love Barrera, man. One of the last throwback fighters. Him and James Toney and Johnny Tapia, guys who would fight even though they were champions. They would fight non-title fights just to be in the boxing ring. You don't see that anymore. And Chavez, of course, is. I mean, he is Mexican boxing. He's the face of it all. What's that kind of conversation like? You're sitting in between these two guys. What are they talking about?
I mean, to be honest with you, every time I see Julio, I feel like a dumbass because I just look at him. I just look at him. I don't know what to say. I mean, I really don't. I'm going to be honest with you, and I can't say I'm biased, but I'm being real. You think about Marco Barrera, you think about Eric Morales, and you think about Julio Cesar Chavez, Ricardo Lopez, and I'll even throw Juan Manuel Marquez in that mix.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about. I mean, that's like the Mount Rushmore of Latino boxing.
Yep.
Mexican boxing.
Yeah.
And 20, 40 years. 40 years from now, if the good Lord still has me on this planet, and if He has all my facilities in place, and I could still think, I'm going to look back and say, holy shit. I mean, they don't get any higher than that.
No,
and I mean, Chrissy, I lived in Hollywood. I mean, I lived in Beverly Hills, 13 years? I mean, I hang out, party with movie stars every night, dude. That was nothing. I mean, let me tell you something really quick. I got to tell you this. And this is something that nobody ever grasped the concept of how legendary Marco Barrera is. And when I mean legendary, I mean legendary. You know what? After every fight, our ritual, we never went out to clubs. We never hung out with girls. We always had girlfriends, all of us. And we would always be family. Always be family. So after every fight, we never partied, nothing. We would always go to like the closest Mexican restaurant, which they would graciously close down for us, and keep it private. And there are so many times where I would be with him and Oscar Maldonado, we would be there. And you would see every dishwasher and porter and janitor and people that work in the back, like the valet parkers, and the way they look at him and the way they come up to him, I mean, I'm just like, wow. You know what I mean? I'm like, bro, you could probably run for president and win in Mexico. I mean, seriously. And the guy's got a heart of gold. Yeah. I mean, a heart of gold. And Julio Cesar Chavez the same way. I mean, you want to bring a smile to his face, go up and ask for his picture with him and shake his hand and call him the greatest ever, Grand Champion. He loves that. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to still see a guy smile and enjoy that, it's like he never really left the ring,
No, he didn't want to. He wanted to be there now if he could. Guy is incredible. I love. I mean, those two guys. I mean, it's hard to find anyone who could rival what those two guys did for me in my lifetime. Because I think out of anybody who boxed, I mean, Mike Tyson's there, Pernell Whitaker's there, James Toney, but I mean, there's a handful of people who take up who you love and who I rooted for in my lifetime more than Marco and Julio. And you're a lucky man to have been able to even share a conversation with those two guys. I mean, you're a lucky guy. And
yeah, man, I tell you, blessed even have the relationship again. That's the most important thing. I always tell them, forget about the celebrity. I used to hate that stuff, believe it or not. I used to be the one everybody hated to be around because I would kick everybody out, man. I was really, I just was like, look, man, forget about the boxing, forget about all the fame. You're a family to me. I mean, Jesus. I mean, if I'll take a bullet for you, bro, come on, Yeah. I mean, they've always been there, the whole family. I can't even say just him. And, I mean, sometimes I got to sit there and realize who I'm dealing with. I mean, everywhere we go, and people be staring and coming over, and I'm like, dude, what the hell? I'm trying to have lunch with my friend here. You know what I mean? And it's just like, wow, the guy's iconic. And if I could meet the President of the United States, Chris wouldn't even come close. I mean, just the fact of who the guy is, he's the greatest guy to hang out with.
Yeah. And you have the hands that you're holding Anatoliy Dudchenko, the Gladiators. This is who he put his career in the hands of, is you. And I know that you know the business enough, and he's got a great guy that he put his career in, and he's lucky to have met you, and you're lucky equally to have met him. You're back in the game. Why did you decide to bring Anatoliy to Jesse Reed? I mean, Jesse Reed's a great trainer, all-time great trainer, but when you hear people talk about the greatest trainers in the game, for some reason, Jesse Reed's name always eludes the list name. There's always Freddie Roach, there's Robert Garcia today. I mean, there's many people. There's Nacho Beristain even in Mexico. There's many great trainers, Uli Wegner in Germany, but for whatever reason, Jesse Reed's name is never brought up, and he had many world champions, a lifetime in the game. Everybody who came into his presence and was trained by him respects him forever. They credit him with being one of the great minds in the game, but you never hear of it. So how did you think of it in your own mind that he was the guy for Anatoly?
Man, let me tell you, what is that old saying? The closed mouth does not get fed.
That's right.
When have we ever known, in the times that we've watched boxing, not just in the business, Chris, but just you and I as fans, when have we ever heard Jesse Reed self-promoting himself?
Never.
Never. Exactly. And you know what? That's why if I got to be a cheerleader for the guy, I will. Because I tell you what, a good friend of ours was the late Johnny Tapia. And let me tell you, that guy swore by Jesse. Franz Botha, my friend Franz Botha, one of the first fighters I ever worked with. You know, first when I was a writer, Franz Botha, I used to follow Franz Botha around. He'd give me any interviews I needed, all the access I needed. Franz Botha even said, you know, the only time I ever felt on the top of my game is when I was with Jesse Reed. And you could see by his fights when he beat up Clifford Etienne. You know, Francois wasn't even really shaped for that fight. But he went down there and he listened to what Jesse told him, and he backed the smaller guy up, and I thought he won the fight. And so, I mean, Jesse, one thing about him, I met Jess in 1995 at the Westminster Boxing Club. He was working with Macho. Camacho, I believe, was down there. And it was 94. Yeah, it was 94. He was with Camacho. And I was down there with Francois Botha and a fighter named Gary Ballard, another South African kid. He was a light heavyweight. And I met Jesse, and he was also working out of the LA Boxing Club in Huntington Beach. Now, I used to hang out in Huntington Beach. You know, I used to like to surf and all. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'll swing by there. And then that's when I met his son, Jesse Jr., and, you know, immediately I like Jesse Jr. He's got that tattoo Italiano on his back. I say, oh, I got Paisan here. Gee, you look like a white supremacist, but you're a Paisan. I like you. But yeah, he's so funny. I mean, the guy's so great. And Jesse, Chris, I just immediately saw the way that his fighters, it's weird. Because, you know, the fighters will always blame the trainers. Always the trainer's fault. Oh, I got knocked out, it's my trainer's fault. I lost, it's my trainer's fault. Here's the thing with Jesse. It's not like he takes a fighter, and this is the same I could say for Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, by the way. Another good trainer, very underrated.
Great trainer, great man.
Yeah, a great trainer. So, like with Eddie, the same thing is this. Is, you know, they're not going to sit there and act like you're in school and do the ABC 1, 2, 3s. You know how to fight already. If you're working with these guys, 9 times out of 10, you either had a pretty lengthy amateur career or you're already a seasoned pro. So Jesse, when he came on, like with these fighters like Botha and all these other guys, and all of a sudden they're stepping up their games. When look, let's be real. You know, Botha was limited. You know, Botha was just like a big old burly sailor. You know, but I mean, he had a lot of heart. But I mean, physically he wasn't the best. Yeah. I mean, he was a big dude.
Strong.
But I mean, Jesse brought out this, like, the rhino in him. You know, I mean, he brought out where it was just like drive, not reverse. Like, you know, throw reverse out the window. And I thought about it, and when the thing wasn't working out with Chris, I was like, oh man, this is the worst spot I'm in. Because believe it or not, you know who I really wanted to put him with, who I think is hands down would be the best for him at the time, was a good buddy of mine, who I talk to frequently, is Donnie Lalonde, who was a WBC light heavyweight champion, as you remember, and put Sugar Ray Leonard on his rump.
That's right.
Donnie was Anatoly's height, 6'3", and Donnie could fight good in the pocket for a lanky guy. And I thought about it. I'm like, wow, I need Anatoly to learn more to fight in the pocket. Donnie would be perfect. Problem is, Donnie lives in Costa Rica. And I'm like, oh, can this really get any worse? And then I'm thinking, all these trainers, in fact, there's a lot of trainers who were hitting me up, and guys that I probably would work with. But I'm thinking about, nah, this guy's not good, his style's not good for Anatoly. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute. I was like, Jesse Reed, that old dog. I know he's got to be around. Who do I see on Facebook posting pictures of himself frying in the sun? Jesse Reed Jr. So I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm like, hey, is Pop still around? Yeah, he's got the gym in Burbank. I'm like, oh, here we go. This is in. He literally, Anatoly lives in Hollywood. The gym is in 6 miles from his house, if that.
Wow.
So yeah, dude, let me tell you, when stars align, man, they align. That's why I'm telling you, I already know what's gonna happen. I mean, I know it sounds crazy to believe in me, but I'm telling you, I know how this is gonna end. I know it.
Yeah, and Anatoly for a while was depressed with the politics of boxing. Then he hooks up with you, incredible guy, has connections, long time in the game, 20 years in the game, and you bring him to Jesse Reed, and he sees immediately something different happening. He didn't have managers, he didn't have promoters, he had nobody. He meets you, you bring him to Jesse Reed, and you hook him up with main events. So how did that come together? How'd you get him actually a promoter in main events? You have East Coast connections.
I tell you, this story is, I feel like it's Jerry Maguire and Rod Tidwell here, him and I. No, seriously, and so many people have told me that. I mean, they're starting to call me Jerry now. Everybody calls me Jerry because they're like, oh, this is like the carbon copy. Here I was, like I said, getting back in the game. I fell off big time. I mean, big time. Now I'm getting back in the game, and I'm with this guy. He's getting no respect. I'm getting no respect. Chris, let me tell you something. When I took over with Anatoly, he was rated 6th in the USBA. That was it. I'm like, hold on a minute. You're a light heavyweight. You have 16 wins and 2 losses, and you're ranked 6th in the USBA? Oh, no. I said, this is not how we're going to do things. I went to work, man. I hit the phones, bro. I called every promoter in the book. I called my buddy Sean Gibbons, who's been very influential in my career, by the way, also. And then I called Brad Goodman. I called Bruce Trampler. I even called Don King's office, and I'm like, say, man, can you help me out? You know what I mean? And he's on the Titanic with me. You know what I mean? So I'm like, shit. I'm like, man, it's hard out here. So I tell you one guy who really helped me out a lot, and I got to give him credit. And you know what? He's a guy like me. If you're good with him, he's good with you. You're straight with him, he's straight with you. And if you got a shaky relationship, he can be a little shaky. And that's Rick Glazer. Rick, I tell you, Rick was helping me out the whole time, negotiate this Robert Woolgate fight, because those Nazis over there in Germany are the worst. And I mean, here we are, a Jewish company dealing with these guys over there. Oh my God, they just so disrespectful. And I said, look, man, we're the mandatory. Let's let it go to purse bid. We got deep pockets. Let's let it go to purse bid. We'll scare them. Well, we wound up getting, I think, we actually got more. We got like 2,000 more than what they were offering. So it wasn't really a victory, more of a moral victory. So Anatoly goes over there, whoops Woge. I mean, whoops him. Just beats him every round. Yeah. And come back, Still can't even get a return call. But all of a sudden, I kept calling Jolene. Kept calling her and calling her and calling her. And I'm thinking, look, this chick is either going to think I'm trying to get with her, or I definitely got something that she's going to, like boxing-wise. So I'm like, listen, I was like, Jolene, I'm not going to shine your apple. I'm going to shoot it to you straight. I said, you're the best fucking matchmaker in boxing since Antonio Curtis. Now, Antonio Curtis, he used to run the sawmill known as the Forum. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine, you fought at the Forum, you were fighting in a lion's pit, bro.
That's right.
You couldn't duck nobody there.
Yep.
So I told her, I said, what you got going on at NBC, and you're pulling these rabbits out of a hat, this is the same thing that Antonio Curtis used to do with the monthly show we had under Dr. Buss, with the, on KCAL. Mm-hmm. out in California, in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. I said, I think I got something you might like. I know you got Sergey. I know you got Isaac, another guy I really like Chilemba a lot. And I'm like, and I know you got Lonnie Thompson. You just signed him. Please, just give me a chance. I don't want a signing bonus. I don't believe in that bullshit. I said, I'm old school. Very old school. I want a chance. Give me a chance, a little chance, and I'll show you a big opportunity. You let me get in there. You just give me a 1-year deal. Just give me a 1-year deal and give me 3 fights. That's all I want. I'm telling you, we'll make this happen. I believe in this kid. I really do. He's got the power. And she said, all right, let me take a look at his fight. So she watched the Woge fight. She called me back. She's like, hey, you know how Jolene. Hey, what do you think Dudchenko would want to sign with Main Events? I'm like, yeah, okay. How about just fax that over to me now? I'll sign it. You know what I mean? I was like, listen, I couldn't stop thanking her enough. I told her, I said, Jolene, I'm telling you, trust me. Just get us on TV. Get us on NBC. We'll do something on there. I guarantee you we will be on HBO, and we will beat whoever you put in front of us. I guarantee it. I'm telling you. And I don't know why she believed me, because usually chicks have a hard time doing that, but she did. She believed me. And, hopefully June 21st it's going to pay off, and I'm going to look like the hero of the day, and Anatoliy's name is going to be put in that light heavyweight hat.
And the first day that you met Anatoly, or early on, you promised him some things. What was it that you promised him? You promised him that he would make $1 million.
I told him, yes, I did. This is a true story, and he will swear to it, and so will our president, Lawrence Rosenberg. They will swear to it. When I first met him, very first met Lawrence and Anatoly together, at the same time, in the room, mm-hmm. I told Anatoly, when he was sitting at Phil's gym, we were outside, I said to him, hey, listen, I said, what do you want to do in boxing? And he said, well, I want to win a world title, of course. And I said, okay, I'll tell you this. You work with me, and you give me 100% of yourself, and I will guarantee you right now, as I sit here and stand in front of you, and I will write it in my blood, you will become a millionaire, and you will be a light heavyweight champion of the world in one of the 4 major bodies. I guarantee it. I said, now listen to me. Just to let you know, I'm not rich. I ain't got money. In fact, I was living on food stamps not too long ago. So I'm just letting you know. A lot of people are going to call me crazy, but I'm going to tell you something right now. This is my life, man. And I'm telling you, I looked at you the second I saw it, you got a killer. And I said to him, I said, Anatoly, if you were standing here with me right now, and I took out a big filet mignon steak, and I threw it in the middle of the floor, what would you do? He said, I'd jump on it. I said, you're going to be light heavyweight champ of the world. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's all I'm going to tell you. I said, now you've told me, go show me. And he said, I'm going to go to Germany, and I'm going to whip this motherfucker's ass.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's 118, 110 across the board, Chris, in Germany.
Yep.
In his backyard.
He won 15 rounds.
European judges. They were not American judges. They were from Poland.
Yep. He won every round, and he won 3 more. He won 15 rounds.
I put it this way. It was the IBF Intercontinental fight of the year. And by the way, just so you know, the talent pool in the Intercontinental divisions, they got this kid named Carl Frampton. He's pretty good out in North Ireland. He's probably the guy at 126 that would beat Rigondeaux, Donaire, and everybody else. He's that good.
Yes, he is.
And he had 4, or I think 3 Intercontinental title defenses where he knocked guys out in Northern Ireland. I mean, the place just erupted. He puts 25,000 in seats up there, and we still got voted for Fight of the Year. If that doesn't tell you what's going on here, I really don't know what does.
No, and you came into his life. Yeah, I totally. The guy's got an IQ, a natural born IQ to get into the game so late and to be as good as he is, and it's a good thing that he started so late because he's probably, low in mileage. He's probably got 10 good years left. So you meet him and he's at that point losing faith in boxing because of the politics and stuff. And today, when we were on that conference call, you mentioned how you didn't want to talk about anything else. You didn't want to even put any kind of thought or no thinking going towards Hopkins, going towards the Al Heyman situation and stuff. But at the end of the day, you can't escape it because you're in the game and your mind has to drift there at times. So where you're at. You're in a title elimination fight with Najib Mohammadi coming up on June 21st on NBC Sports. And you know that if you win this fight, you're a mandatory. You're getting a title shot. Do you think that Bernard Hopkins will fight him if you become the number 1 ranked guy, or do you think he'd rather give up the title? And
can I tell you something? Seriously, can I really? I know you have dedicated listeners that listen to this, so I know when I talk right now, I'm going to be talking to serious boxing people. Okay,
talk to him, Vince. Talk to him.
Look, here's the deal. And on the street, we call this true talk. So this is true talk. Mm-hmm. Here's the deal. I would rather fight a guy. Let me tell you, I don't think Hopkins is a legend. I'll say that first and foremost. I don't. And I'm going to tell you why I don't think he is. I was there ringside, when he got punked by Robbie Allen, right there at the Hilton in Vegas, when he fought Robert Allen back in 97. I think it was 97. He got punked, and I saw a punk that night. He faked that dang ankle injury like a, sorry, dude, but a bitch. Straight out bitch move. If he was on the street, I would have took that motherfucker's shoes right there. Because that's how much he bitched out against Robbie Allen from Georgia. And let me tell you, with respect to Robbie, because Robert Allen could go. Yeah. He was a tough dude. Yes, he could go. But, I mean, everybody, even Robbie will tell you, he was a puncher. He was a bomber. And, I mean, he bombed on Hopkins at middleweight. And I saw that bitch fold. So then I see him around certain circles. I'm with Roy Foreman in Jersey. And we were at a party before a fight, an ESPN fight up in the Tropicana in the suite up there. And here's Bernard running his mouth, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, because I'm black. Da, 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 da. I'm like, dude, shut up. Just shut up. I mean, Roy Jones is out here beating everybody, loses to Montel, and then goes out there and blows them out in a round. That's a fighter. Roy didn't tell you about it. Roy whooped his ass, and then he told you about it. That's how Roy is. Roy's a professional. And here this guy is running around, making himself out to be the anti-hero, the victim. And I'm like, you know what? At first, I actually respected the dude. I actually sat there and listened to his bullshit. Then I realized he's just a ghetto politician. That's all he is, man. He's Bullworth. That's all he is. He's out there telling you how good he is. Look, breakdown, does he have some good wins? Sure does. Against who? Kelly Pavlik. Mr. 6 o'clock himself, straight up and down. Put it this way, I know European fighters that bend their legs more than Kelly Pavlik does. And then really, time showed what Kelly Pavlik was. Just an ordinary white kid that could punch. That's it. And I mean, if you look at the guys, that credibility he fought. Okay, sure, he beat Tito. Yeah, okay, great. I'll give you that one. That was a great win. Tito was at the top of his game. And you beat a guy that I thought is a tough fighter, too, in Keith Holmes. Okay, so it's not like I'm saying he beats slouches. But what he does is he'll take some victories and stretch them like a piece of gum. You notice how he only ever talks about is Kelly Pavlik, but he doesn't remind you how Joe Calzaghe whooped his ass, does he? No, of course he doesn't. And I'm sorry, I thought Calzaghe won 8 out of 12 rounds with him. Easy. Yep. Easy. And where's Calzaghe now? Oh, going into the Hall of Fame this weekend. Hopkins is just, my famous line about Hopkins is this. He beats up Volkswagens and tells you they're Ferraris, and you believe it. And that's the problem. And you know why you believe it today? And think about it. 10 years ago, Hopkins was what? 40. Okay. 6 years ago, he was what? 44. Nobody really made a big deal then. I mean, you know why didn't they make a big deal? Because boxing today, and Chris, you are not included in this group, but boxing today is made up of people that have $5 a month GoDaddy websites, and they tell you like they're an insider. They tell you what is good and what is not. They tell you how great Golden Boy Promotions is and how evil and crooked Robert Arum is. But here's the kicker. Go and get a media credential for a top-rank event. A Manny Pacquiao fight. Let's take a Manny Pacquiao fight. You go into the media room in Manny Pacquiao's fight. Oh, there's Dan from ESPN.com, and there's Rich Marotta. Al Bernstein's over there. These are all credited, credible media sources. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, go to Showtime, and you're going to see girls in there dressed like hookers, like going to the clubs. But, they're boxing experts, boxing correspondents now. This is what they are now. And then there's this kid over here. He's running around writing crazy stuff about fighting and hyping or hyping fighting. And let me tell you something, man. You know, I'll give it to Golden Boy. They're not stupid. They play on the mass. And the mass are idiots. Let's face they're idiots. And what they do is they give these little $5 a month website goony loonies all media access, interviews with all the fighters, up close and personal, blah, blah, blah. And they go out and cheerlead for Golden Boy. That's what they do. Of course, man, Robert Arum is a classy guy. Let me tell you something, man. Robert Arum can walk wherever he wants, sit down wherever he wants, and he's going to get waited on first, surely before you and me.
Yep.
All right? That man has dedicated himself to boxing.
Yep.
And look what happened. He gets the respect he deserves. He runs a professional outlet, not a Soul Train, some ghetto Soul Train. That's what it's like. And I mean, that's why Bernard Hopkins is a legend. He's a legend because he's got these little cronies going out there cheerleading for him. Let me tell you something, and I want your listeners to turn their volumes up to the top right now with what I'm about to tell you. All right?
Turn it up.
Here's the deal. If Hopkins and Stevenson have balls, and I mean fucking big balls, here's what you do. You turn around and you fight Stevenson and Hopkins in a tournament with Dudchenko and Kovalov. It's that easy. Let me tell you something. You could put the first round in New York. It would sell out in a week.
Yep.
I'd give it a week. It would sell out in a week. Why would it sell out in a week? Because you got a Russian and a Ukrainian in New York. You already know that is the biggest Russian community in all of America is in New York. That's number one. Then, number two, you got Stevenson, who's the WBC champ, Hopkins, who's the IBF and WBA, and Sergey, who's the WBO, and we're the mandatory for the IBF. So there you go. You make your life easy. There it is. And look at it this way. If Hopkins and Stevenson are as bad as they're trying to convince everybody they are, you're going to get a double payday. Because not only are you going to get a payday from your first round of fights, you're going to get your payday from your final fight. So you're getting double the payday against the marquee name with Sergey Kovalev. Trust me, after we knock Muhammadi out on the 21st, people are going to beg for Dudchenko's name to be put in that mix. Trust me. Because he's going to bring back old school boxing with Jesse Reed. Trust me on this one, kid. Trust me. So You see where I'm going with this? These guys are telling you how great and legendary they are. I tell you what, if you're a legend, fight your mandatory. Fight your mandatory. Look, we're fighting June 21st, okay? We win and we knock them out under 5 rounds. We will fight you anytime moving on from August. Give me a month and a half. I'm ready. There you go. Yeah. The Gladiator would gladly take it. That's what a fighter does. Ray Robinson fought Jake LaMotta 28 days apart. Bernard Hopkins is a legend? Yeah, no, dude. Not at all. Sorry, not buying it. Oh, you're good. You're Hall of Fame worthy. But listen, Julio Franco was a designated hitter in Major League Baseball until 51 years old. You know why? All he did was hit. He didn't play the field. Bernard Hopkins, you get in there with a guy that's going to bully you and hit you harder than you've been hit in a long time? Please. Chad Dawson, he was shot. He didn't want to fight anymore. Tavares Cloud, same thing. Al Bonani, his own trainer, even said it. Said he's got no desire to fight. And he said that before the fight. So let me tell you, he's been beating up frauds. And if you know this game, like Kathy Dubin knows this game, she'll be the first to tell you. Smoke and mirrors. That's all Bernard Hopkins is. Let me tell you, Roy Jones is miles away, ahead of Bernard Hopkins, I should say. You can't even touch Roy Jones. And I'm not friends with Roy, and I'm not cheerleading for Roy. I just hide by with Roy. But I'll tell you one thing. That's a guy, anywhere, anytime, anybody, he'll fight. When was money ever a problem with Roy Jones? When? Do you ever remember money being a problem with Roy Jones? Ever?
I think that Roy actually didn't fight more guys than he did fight. I wanted to see him fight so many guys that he didn't fight, and people just assumed that he would win, and he probably would have. But there was a lot of guys that Roy should have fought that he didn't fight. But I know what you mean, though. I mean, in his prime, I don't think Roy could have been touched by almost anybody, really. I mean, when I think about, like, Roy at middleweight, I mean, I think he, at his absolute best at middleweight and super middleweight, he was just unbeatable.
Unbeatable.
That was incredible.
Unbeatable.
Incredible.
Why do you think James Toney never wanted a rematch? Unbeatable. I mean, this guy, I mean, and mind you, like I said, I was never really even a Roy Jones fan. To be honest with you, I won money when he lost to Montel. I had Montel at plus 800. I put $200 on him.
I thought Montel was going to win too. I felt like Montel was going to be trouble. I didn't know he would win, but I knew he was going to give him trouble. I knew that. I knew he was going to give him trouble.
Chris, you look at those guys. Even look at Montel. I mean, Ice fought everybody. I mean, look, and he was a little kid. I mean, Ice was, what, 5'7"?
Yeah, 5'7".
And he was sitting in the pocket with James Toney. He was bringing the fight to Roy Jones. And Bernard Hopkins is telling me he's a legend? When the hell did Bernard Hopkins ever bring a fight to anybody? He sits there and waits. Oh, okay, go ahead, wait. I mean, really, Bernard Hopkins, NyQuil, paint drying on the wall. I can't think of a better threesome right there. I mean, really, that's what he is. And Chris, you know, to be honest with you, man, I mean, look, what am I going to do now? You really think that Hopkins in that little... It's so funny because, you know, they sit back and laugh at everybody, all those Showtime retards. I mean, look, Steve Espinosa, you know how much of a disgrace this guy is? Let me tell you something. I was very good friends with Mr. Jay Larkin. And Jay Larkin, I mean, you want to talk about a stand-up guy. Yeah. This was a stand-up guy. He took pride in what he did. I mean, he would literally have arguments with Don King. Hey, I want a better fight than that. I mean, Jay was working with about 1/8 of what Lou DiBella was working with at HBO at the time when Lou was blowing up with Boxing After Dark. All right? But Jay kept Showtime boxing alive. He was a respectable guy. I know that differences were there and the lines were drawn, you know, between Mr. King's relationship with Seth Abraham at the time with HBO. But I'm telling you right now, Jay Larkin always would do the better for boxing. I mean, he was a businessman, yes, as anybody in that position is. And, you know, it is all about numbers. I get that. But Jay Larkin would put a piece of his heart into everything that he did. Do you know what this little worm, Steve Espinosa, does in his free time? He sits there and he hangs out. He tries to hang out with fighters, obviously because he can't get any pussy on his own. So he tries to hang out with fighters. And then, secondly, you know what he does? He goes on social media picking fights with the girls at main events every time there's a light heavyweight fight. I mean, this is who runs Showtime Boxing. This is who runs them. I mean, really. Can you believe this? This is who runs a network boxing. Really.
And you brought up we started talking about the politics, and you brought up pretty much every name in the book. You brought up the Showtime guys. Al Bernstein's one of them, and Bernard Hopkins is with Golden Boy. I mean, everybody in the picture. The only one we didn't bring up yet was Al Heyman and stuff like that. But Steve Espinoza, Showtime's sports boss. I mean, big in the business. Golden Boy was a Golden Boy lawyer. So all these guys, you got Al Bernstein, and then you mentioned Sergey Kovalev, and we're talking main events. We're talking like heavyweights. So it all makes sense. The tournament between Dudchenko and Kovalev and Stevenson and Hopkins, that would be great. I mean, that would be a great tournament. And I mean, just everything though. But when I was thinking during that Stevenson fight, I was watching Showtime, and even reputable guys like Al Bernstein and Brian Kenny, who I respect, those two guys,
great guys.
In boxing,
great guys,
incredible guys.
Yes, I agree 100%.
But they didn't bring up Sergey Kovalev's name, WBO light heavyweight champion. Everyone thought that Stevenson was gonna fight him. I mean, as soon as Stevenson signed with Al Heyman, I knew this was a ploy to run away from the Kovalev fight. He didn't want a part of Kovalev. Then as soon as that happened, shockingly, he moves and goes to Showtime. So Kathy Duva is so fed up because she had a guarantee, a promise that Kovalev was going to be fighting Stevenson next, and she was fed up with it, and she filed a lawsuit against everybody involved. So it was an unbelievable escape route with Stevenson running from Kovalev. I don't like to say it too much, but he ran away from Kovalev.
Yeah, he did. Let me tell you something. Do you know why they didn't mention Sergey Kovalev? But I will give where gives credit where it is. I'll say one thing. Jim Lampley on his show, The Fight Game, he mentions Floyd Mayweather. Yes. He mentions Danny Garcia.
Yes.
He mentions Marcos Maidana.
Yep.
He mentions everybody.
Everybody.
I mean, I think in his pound-for-pound list, I think two of them are Golden Boy fighters, believe it or not.
Yes.
So, I mean, look, here's the thing. And I'm not trying to sound stupid. I'm giving you reality right now. This is what happens when you have a 2-inch fucking penis. Fucking Steve Espinoza is a little Napoleon. That's what he is. Dude, let me tell you something. He talks a good game on Twitter. Does he realize he's serious? If I ever see this dude, do you know what I'm going to do to him? Dude, I'm just going to blow him out with my mouth. I'm just going to be like, dude, you're a fucking troll. Look at you. I mean, look at the guy. And, I mean, here's a guy that if you try to debate him, he starts saying stuff like, yeah, that's all I do is run ahead of a network. I mean, dude, you have, what, a $250,000 a year job? And maybe I'm even shortchanging him on that one. And you're on Twitter talking to all people, me, Joe freaking nobody, and this is how you're talking. And it's like, all I wanted you to do is to tell me that when you see me. When my boot goes on your throat, I want to see how big of a man you fucking are. And this is the head of a network. Listen, you don't think I'd be the hero of the day if I knocked him out? If I saw him? Please. Yeah. Dude, that's like I said. Jay Larkin ran a respectable business. Yeah. Steve Espinoza is Les Moonves' little gopher. That's what he is. He is the proverbial front guy. I don't like Espinoza from Jump Street because I know he had something to do with Marco Barrera, the odds between Marco and Ricardo Maldonado that led Marco to go sign with De La Hoya. I know this little weasel was behind it, so I already got a receipt with his name on it. But, I mean, this guy, man, this is who runs a network. A guy who spends his Friday and Saturday nights arguing on social media.
Well, what do you think? Like, I grew up respecting and loving Al Bernstein. I mean, he was in my living room constantly. I was always watching ESPN super fights, and he would always be there. Him and Barry Tompkins calling fights. I love the guy. He's smart. And I know that his boxing IQ is through the roof. The guy knows a great fighter. And I know that when he looks at Sergey Kovalev, he knows damn well that he could be looking at probably the guy who is the best light heavyweight in the world, who owns a belt. And he knows. Al Bernstein and Brian Kenny, they're smart guys. They know that Sergey Kovalev would probably beat everybody in the light heavyweight division who has a title. They know he's the favorite over Bernard Hopkins. They know he's the favorite over Adonis Stevenson, probably. But they didn't say his name. What do you think that is? Do you think that they were told before they went on the air not to even mention his name? I mean,
absolutely, bro. Listen,
do that?
This is how they do. This is how they do it. They'll go to Sergey. This is what they're doing right now. And let me tell you, this is how they do it. They're putting it out there in their little tweets and little whatever else that they do that, oh yeah, Kovalev versus Stevenson is definitely going to happen. And then they'll write like on Showtime, or like Fat Richard Schaefer, fattest white guy I've ever seen. He'll turn around and say stuff like, oh yeah, Kovalev will come around when he wants money, or something to do with trying to insinuate that he's not happy with the money he makes from main events. Let me tell you something, man. Igis Klimas, there's too many professionals involved for it to be a ripoff. I've seen some ripoffs. Murad Muhammad, Manny Pacquiao, right in front of my face. That was a ripoff. All right? I'm telling you right now. Yeah. The main events is giving Sergey what Sergey wanted, and that was to fight the best. Look, I don't care if Main Events puts it on, Showtime, HBO. I don't care if it's Mr. Lee Chen filming it with the freaking camcorder next door. You know what I mean? I don't care. Main thing is you build your audience by reaching an audience. And I mean, these networks, all of a sudden they want to be promoters. Yeah. And I mean, now they're trying to act like, remember back in the day, when Bob Arum and Don King had their differences, you would never talk about a Bob Arum promoted fighter on a Showtime King show, and you wouldn't see the same thing happen on the other side of the pond until Tim Lampley finally got bold and started talking about Tito Trinidad against De La Hoya, because everybody was sick of De La Hoya beating up guys like Wilfredo Rivera and guys that were longer in the tooth like Obakar. And then they finally said, hey, look, man, you need to get on the phone with Main Events and get Ike Corte in the mix. You need to get on the phone with Don, and you need to get Felix in the mix. And that's exactly what happened. And the thing is, back then, though, look who you were dealing with. Lou DiBella and Jay Larkin. Mm-hmm. Seth Abraham was in the mix over there. Those are stand-up guys. Yeah, they're difficult to deal with sometimes. Who isn't? I'm the worst sometimes. But you know what? They did a lot of moves for the better of boxing. They really did. Yeah. And it takes a big guy to really swallow your pride and go and do business with someone talks a gank of crap behind your back, tries to steal your fighter, tries to do all this stuff. It takes a big person to associate with a person like that, not only in business, but even in a social surrounding. And, Lou DiBella and Jay Larkin were those kind of guys. Yeah, they might bitch about it, and they both might have had foul mouths, but they would make it happen. You really think... And listen, don't let me just bash on Espinoza. It's other people, too. You really don't think that these networks today could really just put their little egos aside and just grow a pair for a couple hours and sit down and say, here's a great triple header, Curtis Stevens, Peter Quillen, Anatoliy Dudchenko, Bernard Hopkins, and Sergey Kovalev, Adonis Stevenson. Hey, we'll put it in the Barclays Center. You think that two rational people that weren't in it for their own self-expedient greed would come together, sit down, and make that happen? Well, Kathy Duva's been saying, hey, let's make it happen. I've yet to see anybody over on that side say, okay, we'll meet you halfway. If HBO wants to put up the money for it, fine. Or if Espinoza wants to put up the money for it, fine. Kathy would gladly take... Kathy's not married to HBO. Unless there's something I don't know. I'm just saying, she could reach out across the pond, but no. They want to sit there and try to talk down to her because she's a woman. They want to sit there and try to label her as a mid-level promoter and them as some powerhouse. Right there, they're disrespecting the woman before they're even giving her a chance to speak her word at the table. Yeah. You see what I mean? I'll tell you one thing. I take I take that to heart. Not just because Kathy's our promoter and I think she's a wonderful person, but you got to remember something who her husband was. Her husband, especially if you're from the state of New Jersey, where I'm from, and came up in the boxing circles around there, okay, Dan Duva was respected by all.
Yeah.
You disrespect his wife, you're disrespecting him. And I'm sorry, you talk shit about Kathy, I will fight you for Dan Duva. Dan Duva is a legend. Okay, Dan Duva, God rest his soul, if he would have been alive today, would be the major force in boxing because he had balls. And that's something that these clowns at these networks don't have, is balls.
Yeah. Yep. And Kathy Duva's great job. She's always put on the best card. I mean, she always makes fights. She keeps her fighters busy. It's a great organization. Jolene Mazzone, incredible matchmaker. They're great. And you got Anatoliy Dudchenko, your man. He's fighting Najib Mohammadi for a shot at the title. And what do you think at the end of the day, if he does win, what do you think will happen? Do you think he's going to fight for a vacated title, or do you think he's going to get a shot at one of the big names?
Well, you know what? This is how I'm going to, and I'll tell you, Chris, and believe me, you will always get the most candid and real me. So I will tell you and your listeners, I'll let my game plan be known. They say it's not smart to let your game plan be known. Well, I'll let it be known. I wholeheartedly, 110% believe that Bernard Hopkins will not fight us. He is going to wait and try to fight the Stevenson fight. Obviously, Kathy's mentioned that Stevenson has a hand injury. If he can't fight, then I guess it looks like we are going to fight him. Either way, I don't think it's going to happen. I am immediately going to get on, I shouldn't say an airplane because I don't fly, but if I got to drive up to Oakland, I will, and I'm going to try to have a sit-down, face-to-face with Andre Ward and maybe James Prince. Now, you know, James Prince, I have a connection with James Prince. You do know that when I came up before the boxing business, I worked at Ruthless Records for the late Eazy-E. You remember that? And you know, Eric Easy was very good friends with Jay Prince and Scarface, very good friends. And Eric told me Scarface almost was part of NWA, very stand-up guy. And he said Jay Prince, stand-up guy. Jerry Heller has also told me Jay Prince is a stand-up guy. I'm going to go lobby with them. I'll try to get a lunch or something with them and sit down. And, you know, they got their problems with Dan Goosen. Maybe we can meet a happy medium. And maybe I can, you know, give Dan a call. And, you know, sometimes you got to play diplomat, you know. I like Dan. I like Tom Brown. Maybe we can get an Andre Ward, you know, to maybe squash this thing with Dan and get back fighting because I think he's a great fighter. And maybe we can do an Andre Ward Anatoliy Dudchenko fight. You know, you got the American hero Andre Ward, the last Olympian to win a gold medal and proudly represent his country, against the Ivan Drago-ish, if you will, Anatoliy Dudchenko. So, I mean, you definitely have an intriguing fight. Listen, after we knock Mohammadi out, people will definitely back that idea up. And I really think that Andre Ward does not want to sit on the shelf. I don't think Dan wants him to sit on the shelf. It's just cooler heads have to prevail, and maybe a schmuck like me can convince him to just put the differences aside. Let's just do it a fight at a time and get Kathy and Dan at the table. And maybe we can do an Andre Ward, Anatoliy Dudchenko fight and let it be Ward testing the waters as a true light heavyweight. I mean, if you can't beat a 36-year-old Ukrainian, you know, hey, maybe he should stay at 168, you know?
Yeah. I just hope that we could see Andre Ward fight Triple G first and then go up to light heavyweight. That would be great. That would.
As a fight fan, I would say, yeah, I like that a lot. You know, I just, look, Chris, like I told you in the press conference today, I do not want to fight anybody that's outside of the top 5. I don't want any more opponents. I don't want them anymore. I don't want them, and it's not about money. We're good on money, trust me. We're not a starving team here. You know, our president lives in Beverly Hills. We're very good. What we want to do is we want to move towards legacy. I mean, honestly, do you know why I'm doing this? I want to be the manager of the year. That's what I want. Ricardo Maldonado won the manager of the year in 2001 when he took Marco Barrera, Nestor Garza, and all those guys to world titles all in 1 year. And I want to duplicate what my mentor, my idol, my father pretty much in boxing, Ricardo Maldonado, did. I want to be the manager of the year. And I think I got a pretty darn good case if I take a guy from nothing to something in less than 2 years.
Yeah. And when you talk, and you're close to Jesse Reed Jr. and Sr., and they're in the gym with this guy, Dudchenko, your man, and they're letting you know about his progress, what do you think? What is your prediction, and what do you think? And first of all, how far did he come since you hooked up with him, skill-wise, hooking up with Jesse Reed? And what is your prediction for June 21st?
You know, I got to be honest with you. And once again, you're going to see my honesty pipe right through here. Jim doesn't tell me anything, you know. Fighter's attitude tells me everything. Mm-hmm. I have not seen him spar this camp. I've listened to what Jesse told me. And yes, I can see visually exactly what's going on. But, man, I am sold when I hear Anatoliy's voice every day at about 5:30, 6 o'clock. He calls me every day. I just know, Chris. I hear it in his voice every day. Oh, yeah, I stopped this guy in sparring today. Oh, yeah, I dropped this guy. He quit. He went home. I'm like, man. I said, Anatoly, that's all good and fine. And you could be knocking everybody out in the world. I don't care what goes on in the gym. I care what goes on in the gym upstairs in your head. And this is the happiest I have ever seen him. He's too relaxed. I'm like, Anatoly, you ready to kill this guy, right? He's like, oh. And then that's when I see it come out. And I when he talks about it, you can see, it's like, when you talk to him tomorrow and you interview him and you compliment him, you're going to feel him smiling over the phone when he talks. And, I mean, he really is a unique guy. I mean, he's a friend. Like I said, if he gets knocked out tomorrow, which, hey, look, I'm not a prophet. It could happen. Muhammad can go starchman around. Well, I still won because I got a good friend out of the deal, you know? He's my buddy. I exclusively represent him. I've been approached by at least 12, 15 fighters, and now since today, my phone's even blowing up more with emails, and I tell them respectively, I can't. All my efforts are towards Anatoly right now. It's a 3-year plan that I've dedicated myself to, that Lawrence Rosenberg, our president, has dedicated himself to, and that Anatoly has dedicated himself to. And now with Jesse on board, he is truly the final piece. And we're ready to go, man. We're ready to go. If things go right, and this is exactly what I see in my head every single night, I see Muhammad getting laid out in under 5 rounds. Yeah, we're going to win that. We're going to win it big. We're going to excite the audience. We're going to excite the people. And us, along with Sergey Kovalev, our friend, Sergey Kovalev, we are going to show that you don't have to settle for Adonis Stevenson and Hopkins in a boring fight, because that's what it will be, a boring fight between just blowhards that tell you how good they are. I'd rather watch 2 guys that don't speak English or barely speak English that could punch the hell out of each other, and that'd be like the Ron Lyle, George Foreman of the light heavyweight division, because I'm telling you right now, this I will say, and I do respect Sergey, but I'm telling you, punch for punch, Anatoly hits harder than him. Trust me. They have one common opponent. Sergey beat this guy in 3 rounds. Anatoly beat him in 1. I'm telling you, he hits harder. You don't have to believe me now. Just believe me after June 21st. That's all I ask.
Yeah. And what you mentioned you want to be the manager of the year. That's your goal. And my prediction is 2015. You're going to be the manager of the year. I don't know about this year, but I think it's a safe bet that 2015, I think you're the favorite. I really do.
Well, listen, man, the only way I'm going to win it is from guys like you that really know this sport and really have the balls to let a guy say what he wants to say and not have to kiss up to sponsors or political ties. You know, that's what boxing is about. It's a very opinionated sport. Even the way we judge our fights, it's an opinionated-based sport. And I'm sorry, I am a very opinionated guy. One thing I will say to everything during this conversation we've had is, it is just my opinion. It doesn't mean that I am trying to force it on you. It doesn't mean that I'm telling you that you have to believe what I say is gospel. I know in my heart what is true and what is not, and I have been wrong. But I think if you really boil down to it and you're a fan of the game, all I ask is that you listen to guys like you. Listen to guys that really just tell it like Cosell used to say, tell it like it is. Just tell it like it is. You don't have to kiss up to one promoter because he gives you a credential and the other one doesn't, and blah, 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 blah. That's just childish, and it's irresponsible reporting. Irresponsible. And, Chris, you do a great job. I know I've been begging to come on your show because you let boxing people speak their mind. Everybody you talk to, everybody, even if I don't even like them, they're still boxing people. You're not, interviewing the third guy who holds Floyd Mayweather's WBA belt, the guy behind him when he walks to the ring. You understand what I'm trying to say? Mm-hmm. You're not interviewing Sam Watson or one of the Watson twins. They're talking to guys that legitimately have a stake in this sport, who do this for the love of the sport. Like I told you at the top of this conversation, and I get emotional every time I say it. If it wasn't for boxing, I'd be dead, man. I wouldn't have nothing. Nothing. Boxing has granted me relationships that have saved my ass when it was on the line. So why not give 100% back to it? What you give is what you get. Maybe if we get these greedy guys out of the way, boxing might be a little bit better. I was happy to see that the Showtime ratings were significantly down. Yeah. Floyd Mayweather's pay-per-view ratings were down. I mean, like Robert Arm said, he laid the blueprint for everybody. If you really want change and you want to see the best fights, stop watching Showtime. Stop paying for Floyd Mayweather one-sided 14-1 underdog odd fights. Stop shelling out $70. Stop. Because when you stop, the ratings go down, and then guess whose head rolls? Number one on the block is going to be Steve Espinoza. You want to get rid of him? Don't tune in to Showtime, or go to watch it in a place that has it on, like a bar or something, so that's only one Nielsen rating they're hitting. You know what I mean? The bottom line is you got to stand up and say no. You're not going to see these fights. They're giving you pipe dreams. We've heard every excuse Hopkins and Stevenson have given that they don't want to fight. Oh, Sergey's not a big name. Blah, 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 blah. You don't offer enough money. You know what? Do you think I'm going to ask those questions when I go to the negotiating table for our next fight? You know what I'm going to say? When, where, how many comp ringside tickets do I get, and what's your first number? If it's anywhere near my number, give me the contract, I'll sign it. That's how I negotiate. Because it's not about just straight-up money. When you make it about straight-up money, then go be a banker. You know what I mean? It's about being part of history. I was part of the greatest fight, I think, ever in the 122-pound division. Marco Barrera versus Prince Nassim Hamed. Biggest fight ever in the 122-pound division. I'd say, let's just say featherweight division. I think it was a featherweight fight. That was 126, in fact. But still, one of the biggest fights. I'd put that right up there with Willie Pep's fight. Some of his classic fights. And I was part of that. That means when I'm dead and gone, my grandkids somewhere could turn on that fight and see me side by side with Marco Barrera from entrance to exit. I mean, that says something, man. That says something.
It does. And you did it. And boxing's lucky to have had you. And I'm lucky to have had you on tonight. I wanted to have you on for so long, and it finally happened. And yes. It was one of my favorite conversations that I had, and I'm glad that it finally
Likewise, bro. We've been on this interview for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to say something. I know you got listeners that listen to all of your podcasts in full. And if they really listen to this, I tell you what, I hope they keep supporting you. I really do. Because I want to see guys like you at all the major fights. Guys out there that are really going to freaking report it and say it like it is. Thank you so much for having me on, Chris. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. And I know that if people do listen, they're going to love you just as much as I do, man. And they're going to want to follow you too. How do they follow you? You got a voice, you express your opinion, and I'm sure that you're that way with everyone. So how do people reach out to you? You mentioned you're on Twitter, but I looked for you on Twitter and I never found you. So who are you?
I'm on the Rosebox. It's at Rosebox Sports, and Rosebox is ROZEBOX Sports, and that's our Twitter. at Rosebox Sports. That's if you want to be on the Twitter page, or you can reach me by, obviously, Facebook. We have a Rosebox Sports Facebook page. That's under the same thing, ROZE, BOX Sports. And then, of course, my own Facebook page. You know, hey, look, I friend everyone. As soon as you piss me off, I block you. So there you go. But no,
So don't piss 'em
but
off.
yeah, I'm always an open book, especially to anybody that really is a true fan of boxing. You don't even have to agree with me. As long as you talk sense and argue valid points, I love debating. So please, yeah, hit me up anytime.
The great Vince Caruso. I appreciate this time talking to you. It was long overdue. Glad we finally did it. Watch
Thank
his
you.
man, Anatoliy Dudchenko, take on Najib Mohammadi on June 21st on NBC Sports. I appreciate your time, Vince. Good luck,
Thank you,
and
Chris.
I will talk to you
It was
before
great being
that
on the
fight.
show. Thank you so much, man.
Great
I
having you.
appreciate this so much.